Hey, what's up guys? It's Foster from SubiSpeed, and in today's video, we're going to be covering what, in my opinion, are the top 10 performance modifications you can do to your WRX or STI. We're going to start our list off with that yellow fuel pump you see at the gas station. And for those of you who don't know what I'm referring to, I'm talking about E85. E85 is a great alternative fuel because it's super oxygenated and super high in octane, which means more power, baby.
More power, baby. More power, baby. More power, baby.
But before you run over to the gas station and put E85 in your car at the next fill up, there's a couple things you need to do first in order for your car to be ready for that alternative fuel. The Cobb Flex Fuel Kit comes with all the sensors and lines you need in order for your car to be able to run flex fuel. In addition, I'd recommend upgrading your fuel pump as well, since E85 requires about 30% more flow than a regular gasoline fuel would. For your WRX guys, I'd recommend that Nostrum fuel pump since it's rated up to E100 and it's also capable of more than 600 horsepower, which should be more than enough. For all these reasons, we love E85, and that's why it comes in at number 10 on our list. Next up on our list is an intercooler upgrade. The factory intercoolers with the WRX and STI were a bit wimpy, and they can easily experience heat soak, which leads to poor performance. The two most common types of intercooler upgrades are a top mount intercooler or a front mount intercooler. By switching to a top mount intercooler, you're going to get better throttle response, you're going to get cooler charge air, and you're going to pick up about 10 horsepower. But if you're looking for even more power gains, you're going to want to consider getting a front mount intercooler setup. Since it's located in the front of the car, you're not going to get the heat soak issues the same way you do in the engine bay, and you can take up a lot more real estate. But one thing to keep in mind when you're looking at front mount intercooler setups is some require you to modify or remove your crash beam, and you may or may not be able to run that coolant reservoir as well as your fog lights, so keep that in mind when you're doing your shopping. Because intercoolers truly are a bolt-on modification where you pick up some performance, they're going to come in at number 9 on our list. Speaking of cooling, let's talk about radiators and oil coolers. Now, I know this isn't something you'd typically consider as a performance mod. However, these are going to be critical if you're driving your car to its limit or if you've added more horsepower. Since modified Subarus are known for having high oil temps when they're out on track, something like the Mishimoto oil cooler kit is going to do a great job keeping those oil temperatures at a safe range so you don't cause damage to your engine. Similarly, if you're looking for a drop-in radiator, the Koyo Rad is going to do a great job preventing overheating and keeping your car running at a safe temperature range. So even though these mods don't add horsepower, I'm going to go ahead and add them as number 8 on my list since they're going to allow you to focus on driving. Next up, let's talk about sway bars. Sway bars are a great modification to improve your car's handling characteristics, and they're going to decrease body roll as well as improve your cornering grip. The sway bar is going to connect one side of your car's suspension to the other, which is going to more evenly distribute that lateral load during cornering. Since the WRX comes with understeer from the factory, we used a bigger rear sway bar in order to make the car a little bit more neutral. I especially like the Whiteline sway bar since it's 3-way adjustable, and that way we could really dial in the car to make it handle as we like. It might seem like a small modification, but upgraded sway bars really do make a huge difference with your car's handling, which is why I'm going to include it as number 7 on my list. Cold air intakes are another great way to add performance to your WRX or STI. By putting an intake on your car, you're going to get less restrictions with better airflow, and you're also going to get some sweet turbo noises. But before you put an intake on your car and expect it to make a bunch more power, you are going to have to get your ECU tuned and recalibrated for that additional airflow. In addition to upgrading your intake, I'd recommend doing the charge pipe as well as the turbo inlet and the boost controller, and that way you're going to see the full benefit out of upgrading your intake. Since this is a project you can take on yourself at home pretty easily, I'm going to go ahead and put this as number 6 on my list. One of the most popular modifications for these cars is the exhaust system, and for good reason. You're going to save some weight, you're going to free up some ponies, and you're going to unleash that awesome Subaru sound. terms of performance, you're going to see the biggest benefit out of changing out your J-pipe or your downpipe, depending on if you have a WRX or an STI. Speaking of which, I do have a Grimmspeed J-pipe sitting around the shop, so if you want to see me install that, comment down below and let me know, and I'll put it in a future video. After that, I would recommend changing out your catback exhaust. The OEM catback exhaust is very heavy and restrictive, and by switching to something like the Tomei Extreme Titanium exhaust, you're going to save 34 pounds of weight savings, which is huge. All said and done, you're going to get about 20 or 30 horsepower of gains by switching out your turbo back exhaust. I don't know about you guys, but I fell in love with these cars for their performance and for their sound, which is why exhaust comes in at number 5 on my list. Your car's performance depends on a lot more than just straight line speed, which is why handling modifications are so popular as well. By changing out your car's factory suspension for some coilovers or some lowering springs, you're going to benefit from a lowered center of gravity, a stiffer spring rate, as well as reduced body roll. From a driver's perspective, that's going to give you more confidence going into a corner, and you're going to be able to really push the car to its limits. One thing to keep in mind is when you do these suspension mods, you're going to affect your car's alignment and suspension geometry as well, which is why I'm going to include lower control arms, camber plates, and camber bolts in this list, because those are going to be critical to getting the maximum performance out of your car. For those of you who track or you go to autocross events, you're going to see the results of your suspension in your lap times, which is why I'm including this as number 4 on my list. While we have the wheel off, let's go ahead and talk about brakes. Brakes are one of the most commonly overlooked performance modifications because a lot of people are focused on going fast, but they forget you need to stop fast as well. The OEM brake pads are not designed to operate in a high temperature, so when pushed to the limit, you're going to start to see brake fade. By switching to a high performance compound like this one, you're going to get a lot better operating temp as well as more initial bite, which is going to give you more confidence in those brakes as a driver. But if that's not enough, you can switch to a full big brake kit like the AP Racing big brake kit here we have on the WRX, and that's going to give you more pistons, which means more stopping power. In addition to upgrading your brakes, I'd also recommend upgrading your brake fluid. This ATE Type 200 brake fluid is going to do a great job at staying consistent under high braking loads. You're also not going to have to be worried about it boiling the same way you will with your OEM fluid, so if you're tracking your car, upgrading your brake fluid is a must. Since brakes really are the unsung hero of performance mods, I'm going to go ahead and put them as number 3 on my list. One of, if not the most important performance modifications you can make to your car is a good set of wheels and tires. The stock wheels that come on the WRX are a 17x8 with a 235 tire. However, as you can tell, we've upgraded to a set of aftermarket wheels that are 18x9.5 with a 255 tire. Not only are we going to benefit from the improved aesthetics, but we're going to get increased contact patch while keeping that rotational mass to a minimum. In addition, since we stepped it up to an 18-inch wheel, we're going to have a shorter, stiffer sidewall, which means better handling. Speaking of tire compound, a soft, sticky tire is going to give you the best summer performance, but you're going to trade off a bit of longevity and winter performance, so keep that in mind when you're looking at tire options. In terms of bang for your buck, you're really going to be hard-pressed to find a modification that can give you better performance than wheels and tires, which is why it's coming in at number 2 on my list. Here we are, guys. The number 1 most important performance mod you can do to your car is a tune. I've listed a lot of different parts, however, without a tune, you're not gonna realize the full benefit of them. The Cobb access port makes it super easy, so depending on what you have on your car, you can either go with an off-the-shelf map or you can get it tuned by a pro tuner. In addition, it's got a couple handy features like being able to read your check engine lights and monitor your gauges, so it's definitely a handy tool to have. Power-wise, a 2015 WRX is going to pick up about 26 horsepower just with the tune, and a 2015 WRX is going to pick up about 30. Those are some pretty impressive numbers for only having to push a couple buttons. Additionally, as you install further engine modifications down the road, you're going to need a way to tune for them, which is why the Cobb access port should really be number 1 on your list. Well, that's going to do it for my top 10 modifications for your Subaru. If you guys think I got my list in the wrong order, or if I completely missed something, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'd love to get your feedback. If you're new to the channel, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.